Hi, folks. It's the moment you've all been waiting for, my newly updated top 10 worst EU books. Okay. I did this a long time ago after Matt's Expanded Universe. I did a top 10 good, a top 10 bad. And looking at my top 10 good, I'm not really going to change anything. There may be a few slots of things moving in. I don't think anything broke into the top 10 that wasn't already on the top 10. There are definitely some stories that moved up, like Yoda Rendezvous, in my opinion, is an excellent book, definitely a top 20 book. But I don't know if anything moved or slid in or out of the top 10, and maybe a few slots were changed up. But looking at it, and this was a couple months ago, I realized that my top 10 wasn't going to change. Wasn't going to change. But my top 10 worst, that did change. And I knew it was going to change when I started reading tons and tons of garbage that I've just forgotten over the years was garbage. And now I know. So I'm going to rank this as best I can. I just recently put them, I didn't even look, just to save myself from having a skewed judgment. I did not look at my last video. I didn't look to compare and contrast. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go in with a fresh mind. This is a reread, giving everyone a fresh start. Yes, there are tons of books, not tons. There's a good portion of books that dropped from my top 10 worst list and new ones that got put in. So let's just go ahead and get this over without delay. Here are, in my opinion, the top 10 worst EU books. Hey, are one of these EU books your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. Just chew me out. It's okay. It's just opinion. Remember, that's all this is. All right. So first off, number 10, Choices of One. I picked this one between this one and Allegiance because this is Timothy Zahn's biggest swing and a miss. And I mean a hard miss too, because there's not one thing I remembered about this. From here on out, I just don't remember anything. A few things about Allegiance I do remember, but nothing about Choices of One. I remember being bored in both books. Like Allegiance would probably be number 11. Oh no, I missed one on here. Oh no, I see. I had it scratched out, but that probably should be in there. Either way, I'll get to it either. Maybe Choices of One is not in the top 10. I think Choices of One and Allegiance are both egregious, but I've got to fit this one in. This one's worse. So what I'll do I fit it in now or do I fit it in later? I'm gonna look at number 9 here. No, I'm gonna make this one number 10. I'm gonna fit this new one in here too. I'm not going to show this, but I have a bunch of markings on this one, and I marked through it, but it should not have been marked through. So I'm guessing one of my kids took this and marked through it by accident. But anyway, number 10, new number 10 now, because we have another one in. Wow, this is live, isn't it? But here we go. Number 10, Coruscant Knights. And I'm adding Last of the Jedi on this since it was a continuation of this. Matt, is that cheating? Maybe so. Last of the Jedi would definitely rank higher than Coruscant Knights. Coruscant Knights started off really good, then was okay, then was horrible. By the third book, it was horrible. And Last of the Jedi came out, and I was like, yes, they're finally going to redeem this series because I really wanted to like it. And it was even worse. It was even worse. So as a series as a whole, this whole Coruscant Knights series, I should say, I'm going to put all at number 10. But it's at number 10 because it started off really good. I think book number 1 was really good. And I think book number 2, I was like, oh, okay, all right. And then book number 3, I was like, oh yeah, that's why I didn't like this book. But that easily gets number 10. Another one, number 8. Oh, what am I going to do here? This is where this one may fit in. Nope, I'm going to do it. Number 9. Number 9 now is Republic Commando series. Oh, Matt, have you forgiven Karen Traviss? Not yet. Not yet. She's still in my top 10. She's much lower though. I'm pretty sure. I haven't checked. Like I said, I didn't check my top 10 worst from last time, but I'm pretty sure she's a lot lower on the list now. And that's because reading it, there are some good scenes. Literally just the first book. But if you get out Etain and her love of a clone trooper and her infatuation with that and all the Mando talk that's supposed to be cool, there are some good scenes in here. There are some interesting characters. The thing is, there's so much bad with this, so much bad. Like Darman and Etain, I cannot deal with that. And then all the cool little Mando speak. It gets boring after a while, for me at least. And so even though you can dig through, the crap and find a gold nugget of kernel of corn in there every once in a while, other than that, it's pretty bad as a whole. But this is why it gets ranked a little bit lower, because there were some things to like about it. Okay, now I can easily put this one in at number 7 here. The Bounty Hunter Wars. The Bounty Hunter Wars, you want something with Boba Fett. It has some good moments. It has some great moments. But this guy, who wrote it, H.W. Jeter. I should have looked at the names here before I did this. But anyway, that guy did a horrible job of studying the EU, of respecting fans and respecting continuity. There's a lot of continuity busters in his own book. He breaks continuity with his own books too, and everything is just a huge mess. And I wish there was some way to fix that. I wish some editor would have stood up and said, "Hey, you need to add this in, or you need to change this." But everyone just let him do what he wanted to. This book, this trilogy, should have been a trilogy that everyone should be talking about and buzzing about today. But it's so bad that most people, when you mention it, they've never heard of it before. And rightfully so, it is that bad, which is why it's number 8 on my list. Okay, so here we go. All these should be in order. Number 7. I don't know if this one's dropped too. I feel it's dropped a little bit, but Knight Errant. Knight Errant, like I said, Kara Holt, the worst character, the most boringest character, I should say, in the world. She's just but and the thing is, the focus is on her. If the focus wasn't her, maybe some other Jedi, you'd have a really great story. I like the idea of a Jedi crossing over the Sith boundary lines, trying to go to those Sith inhabited planets and free people, like an underground railroad system, and trying to free them up to the Republic, the old Republic. That's great. That's a great idea. And that these Sith are all kind of related to each other and fighting over each other. That's awesome too. But you have the boringest lead put in there, and I cannot invest in this. Now, on the website, Maxine wrote a great article defending Knight Errant, and I put it up there, and I am glad, more than happy to entertain opinions that are different than me when it comes to expanding universe. That was no problem at all, and I appreciate her doing that, but it still didn't change my mind. It may have wiggled this down the list a little bit because I feel like I had it ranked higher last time, but either way, still a bad. If you take Kara Holt and you put any other, you put Zane Carrick in this, and which would not be a bad idea. Like after his adventures, this is what he wants to do now with his life. Oh man, this is it's like a top 10 book. You put Zane Carrick in a novel, but he went for, and this is so weird because John Jackson Miller, in my opinion, this is his only miss. Guy hits home runs every time he comes up to plate in comic books and novels, and then this one just. Great idea too, but just didn't deliver for me. All right, number 6. Number 6 is one of the Old Republic books called Fatal Alliance. Folks, when it came to Old Republic, I really enjoyed reading Deceived, Revan. Those are my 2 favorites. Deceived first, then Revan, close in there. Even though a lot of fans don't like Revan because they played the game, but I didn't play the game, so I actually loved Revan. And then, oh my goodness, is Allegiance? I think that's the other one that came. That was the other book, which was decent. It was good. It wasn't bad or good. It was okay. But Fatal Alliance is just, it's awful. It's like a what were they thinking moment. You had a really incredible Old Republic book series going where any one of those books, I feel like I'm saying it wrong. What's it called? It's somewhere on my list too. I don't know where it is. Annihilation. There it is. Had to look it up on this is all live. I'm not cutting any of this off. But Annihilation. Annihilation is a decent one. It's not the best one, I think, but it's fine. I wouldn't oppose anyone reading that. If they want to start in the Old Republic, that's fine. But I would tell them to avoid Fatal Alliance, or don't read that one first. Read that one last out of all 3 books, and then please, please, please continue reading afterwards because it's just not interesting. And I was shocked because there's action going on in this book, but you don't care. That's the amazing thing. There's stuff happening, and you're like, okay, so a thing happened. Oh, here's a fight. Here's a battle. Oh, interesting. And you just don't care. It's just so bad. It's so bad, which is why it gets number 6. I know I didn't have that one on my list previously. Number 5 is another one I didn't have on my list previously, and I don't know why, but Jedi Trial. Jedi Trial happens during the Clone Wars. It had some memorable moments because I remember Anakin. There's 1 or 2 good scenes maybe with Anakin, but other than that, this was written by people they wrote military books. I get it. You wanted to write a book about the Clone Wars, so you want to do military. Got it. Good. But they didn't know anything about Star Wars. And it felt more like a military book than a Star Wars book. Like the guy, I made fun of this in my reread, the guy who talks to Anakin for 20 minutes about what it means to be a quartermaster. We don't need that. But they don't know Star Wars, so they had to write something in there that was military, that was familiar to them, so they would understand it. It is obvious it was written by non-Star Wars fans or people who just watched the movies and had no idea what the books were about. And that's why it ranks on this list, probably for the first time ever, because I don't think I had this one on here last time. At number 4 is Stealth and Gambit. Oh, this one I knew was bad. It probably moves up on my list because I feel like I had this ranked a lot lower last time. But reading it through it again, here's the thing. After reading Karen Miller's other one, either No Prisoners or Wild Space, it was Wild Space. I enjoyed Wild Space. And I was thinking, you know what? Maybe I need to give her another try. Maybe Stealth and Gambit, there was something in there, and I was just not in a good mood to read it, or maybe it starts off slow but ends up being strong at the end, or maybe there's some good memorable moments I forgot. None of the above. None of the above. For it to come through and be even worse than I remembered the first time reading, it was worse than I remembered. Okay, and I remember things bad. I already had this on my top 10 worst EU books, and now it's risen. Pretty sure it's risen. I don't think it was number 4 last time. But terrible book. It's just a book about nothing. It could have been just blank pages all the way through both duologies, and it'd have been a better book if it just been blank pages, just extra stuffing on your bookshelf. I mean, honestly, a book of nothing. That is what they should call it. Speaking of nothing, number 3. Which one of these? Both of these. Number 3. Okay, here we go. Dawn of the Jedi. Dawn of the Jedi may be exactly where it is at. Maybe I had it at 2. I don't remember, but Dawn of the Jedi is pretty high. I always knew it would be bad. I think this is a terrible way to begin reading the expanded universe in chronological order. I don't think you should ever read Dawn of the Jedi. In fact, I would suggest people just avoid that in the comic books altogether. Avoid them altogether. But this book, and it's the author, it's his fault, really, because I've read Tim Levin and I've read other books by him, and he writes the same way. And also, just like in Star Wars, he wrote a book for Firefly. It does not feel connected to the brand. It's like he's not a fan. He knows about it. I'm sure he knew about Firefly. He knew about Star Wars, but he just doesn't make the characters feel believable. And that's the big problem with Dawn of the Jedi. Well, that's one of the big problems. His writing style is the biggest problem. But another problem with him is that none of his characters are interesting. Lannery Brock is the only person I remember about this. And I think she was trying to find her brother. I've read this twice. I call it my worst one, and I still remember it. On top of that, those all the facts I can remember. Yes, that easily ranks number 3. Number 2 is Approaching Storm. I don't think this even was on my top 10 before, and here it is all the way up to number 2. Approaching Storm is mind-bogglingly stupid. Like, none of it makes sense. I can't remember her name now, the Jedi, does not know who Anakin is, did not know Anakin didn't have a father or whatnot. You should know everything about the prophesied one. You should be, when you got the news, you probably should have been like, oh, what all about him? But she doesn't know that. She just found this out like 10 years later. That doesn't seem believable. Plus, there's so much just that doesn't make sense. Again, the same Jedi Master, what if she fell in a hole? That's the literal quote. What if she fell in a hole? I mean, everyone loves my review of that book, and if you haven't seen it, go ahead and watch the reread. It's great because I was just stunned at how terrible this book was and how I didn't see that the first time. I mean, this is supposed to be the exciting prequel leading up to episode 2, so probably I was just gobbling it up, getting excited for episode 2 when it was going to come out. And maybe, I looked at it with rose-colored glasses, but now I look at it has nothing to do with the release of episode 2. The story, the planet is mentioned from the book, the adventure. Oh, Obi-Wan and Anakin are just getting done from a mission on Anision, which is the planet that his book took place on. Okay, there's the one connection there. But if the if Chancellor Palpatine said, "Oh, what happened?" and Mace Windu goes, "I don't know. I fell asleep reading the report." That's what he would have said. It was awful. So this is why it's number 2. All right, number 1. It is iJedi. Come on, get out of here. I just find, again, for the same reasons, I'm not going to harp on this too much, but I just feel like it's a slap in the face to Kevin J. Anderson, inserting this character in there, even though Kevin J. Anderson is completely okay with this and told me verbatim that, that's exactly when Stackpole said, "Hey, can I put Corran Horn in this class?" I went, yes, I left it open for Jedi. Please go ahead and do it. It was with his blessing that Michael Stackpole wrote his character inside the Jedi Academy trilogy. But not even on that. Michael Stackpole makes Luke look like a doofus compared to Corran. Corran seems so irrational, like he's got to go find Mirax, but then he has several weeks to spend at the Jedi Academy until he gets that urgency again and then runs off again. Nothing makes sense. It's a combobulated mess. Luke looks like a doofus. He sees newly acquired Corran Horn student, his equal already, and Corran Horn is just so obnoxious in this. He's so obnoxious. Like, you just can't stand him in this. There was something else I didn't like either. And then the confusing thing, while after his cover as his old Jedi name is blown, and they save Mirax and everyone's done, Luke's still calling him by his undercover name. Why? Who is there else to fool? And again, the need for an undercover alias. They did that because if Corran Horn was at the Jedi Academy, why didn't anyone say it? So I understand why Stackpole had to do that, but at the same time, it makes no sense because my enemies will know. No, several times in the Young Jedi Knights books and in Kevin J. Anderson's own trilogy, they say that they're so far cut off from the world, they don't even know what's happening on Coruscant. So if it's during the Jedi Academy trilogy, twice it has said that, and still stated a little bit in Young Jedi Knights that they're kind of cut off and they don't get much, news from the outside world. Well, obviously they did when Corran was going, or he thought he was just so important. That's probably what it was. He thought he was such a big, important star that all the news media was going to focus their attention on Yavin 4 and report his every meal, every breath, every word, every last syllable. They were going to write it down and document it for years to come. His wisdom just spouting out of his mouth or whatnot. I still don't like it. I know this is a lot of people's number one, and that's fine, but it's not for me. All right, folks. So what do you think of my new updated top 10 list? Justified, yes. Did I miss a book? Do you think there's a book worse than that? Because there are some stinkers in there. Like I bumped out Allegiance and Choices of One, even though I think they're both bad. And I did admit that the Last of the Jedi is worse than the Republic Commando series. The only thing I didn't add, by the way, was the Last of the Jedi series by anything Last of the Jedi sucks. Last of the Jedi by Jude Watson. It's a children's series. It's bad. I believe it's terrible, in fact. But I felt like since it was a children's series, even though I'd hold up some of her other children's series above all of the books on this list. Jedi Apprentice, if you were to count that as a series, it'd be tough for me not to put it in my top 10. But I decided not to put children's books on here. And there's really not, it's kind of hard to come down on children's books that suck. And the only reason I mentioned those is because she wrote 2 excellent series before that. So that's why I mentioned that one. But let me know in the comments, or any other series, trilogies, or books that you think are worse. Do you like any of the ones that were on my list? Please go ahead and tell me why. Remember, this is complete objective opinion. It does not make it fact just because I stated. All right, folks, that's it for now. See you next time.